Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Hello and welcome to Better on Draft. This is episode 366, where we are going to talk about the Craft Brewers Conference 2025 that was in Indianapolis. But before we do that, hey, Wendy, what are you drinking?
Did I turn my mic back on? Yes.
Yes, you did.
I am drinking from the Batch Brewing Company, their anniversary beer, their Lush 2. It is a bourbon barrel-aged double mash imperial stout. And I will tell you, it is delicious.
Ooh, that sounds thick and delicious.
It did have wax on it, though. We won't go into it.
Yeah, wax. The game that we're playing on Discord right now is based on beer name length. So you get 10 points and you lose a point for every letter in your beer name.
I haven't gotten to play in a couple months.
Yeah. Oh, as for me, I have Against the Grain Soulmate, which is a citrus sweet ale from, Against the Grain. Again, for the aforementioned project, that one is 7 letters.
I'm really excited. I actually just got a sample from BJ's Brewer House that they want me to sample their Nitwit beer, I believe it's called. And that is a Belgian wheat. I'm super excited about it. Belgian wheat,
Is that new? I feel like I've had that there before.
They just released it for the season, so.
Okay. So maybe it's just a seasonal that's out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we talked to BJ's a while back, but there's one within biking distance. And so I will occasionally bike down there and have a meal and a beer.
I don't get to bike there, but because both of them near me are too far away. But I do love their food, and their beer is always on point. So
they are a good visit for sure. And they are just about at the 10-mile range for me. So that is a good long bike ride and good long bike ride back.
That is not a bike ride I would do.
But today,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's fine. Today we're going to talk about the Craft Brewers Conference, and I have their wrap-up thing queued up and ready to share on the screen, which has beautiful pictures that will not translate well to the audio portion of the podcast, but they are pretty nice. And I'm going to use them to kind of talk through, what my experience was, what was going on, how it all worked. My thoughts on it, because I'm not a brewer. I am a home brewer, but that's a totally different class of thing. And so just my thoughts on it, as I'm more of a consumer and just interested in the industry. But I want to start by mentioning that my friends Greg and Alex. So we talked to Greg from Brewerocracy about a year ago. I could have looked up the episode number, but I did not. If you want to hear Greg talk about brewing in New Zealand, then there is an episode out there for that. But Greg and Alex stayed with me. We had a wonderful time. So most of my exploration at the conference involved them and things that either they were interested in doing or just things that I wanted to show them outside of the conference as well. So that all started with them flying in on Monday. The conference had a welcome session on Monday. We got badged. We went to the welcome session, and this picture that I have up here of everybody out on the Indy Colts football field, looking happy and cheering. That was during the welcome session. They had us out there on the field. I thought there was a second picture in here with it. Okay, maybe not. They had us out there on the field, or if we wanted to go out on the field, and you were able to kick field goals. You were able to play beer pong with your friends. They had these gigantic red Solo cups, probably 4 foot tall, something like that. Basically throwing volleyballs instead of ping pong balls. You could play. They had cornhole set up. It was normal size cornhole. And they had a gigantic Jenga. They had a bunch of stuff going on down on the field. It was honestly a lot of fun to sit in the stands and watch people try to kick field goals. Keeping in mind this is an international conference and not everybody is up on American football. So there was a lot of flubbed kicks, to be generous. And then there were the few who knew what they were doing. We saw one guy make it from, I want to say, 45 yards. They started at like 25 yards and then moved them back 5 every time that they made a ball. And one guy got back to, I think it was 45 yards. So, but that was fun. And the best part of the welcome session was that there was beer, free beer, and I don't know if you're familiar with it's got to be the city food of Indianapolis, but the pork tenderloin sandwich. We had a smaller version of that, basically a pork tenderloin slider. They called it, I think, pork fritter sliders, something like that. But if you have not experienced the Indianapolis pork tenderloin sandwich, it is a pork tenderloin smashed as flat as you possibly can and as big as you possibly can, breaded and fried. It might have salt and stuff on it, but then it will be put on a comically small bun. And so these pork fritters were a little larger than a standard hamburger would be, and put on a slider bun. So that's how. So they threw back to the appropriate ratio of bun to meat.
It's important.
Yeah, it is important. Yeah. So the way they had it set up, the welcome conference was cool. They had live music. They had it set up to the main entrance into the stadium, where it was all cordoned off. They had tables with free samples that being refilled. You just go pick up a glass, go inspect. They had cans behind each one. I think everything was poured out of cans at this one, maybe some bottles, but not anything on draft at that part. But you could go check out what you were drinking and get some notes and figure out who it was. And this one, the beers were from quite a few places. I had some from Michigan, Ohio, and quite a few from Indiana, but then there were some that were farther afield. And they did have a fancy tent labeled with Cincinnati, and it seemed to have Ohio beers. And they were pouring some fancy, barrel-aged stuff that came out of waxed bottles, and I really felt for those pourers.
Right? I don't like having to open one in a night, let alone 30.
Yeah. I guess the only saving grace is that they were pouring for brewers, so they know about the wax.
Right.
So they're not going to be too demanding. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. I quite enjoyed that. Greg and Alex got to experience an American football stadium. They got to watch people kicking field goals, which is a pretty weird thing. But that was a lot of fun. I'm trying to remember what we ended up doing Monday night, but nothing's coming to me. So
must
Tuesday,
have been a good night.
Yeah, it must have been a good night. I think we just went back to my place, crashed, and had some beers. Tuesday is when the conference actually started. I will admit that we missed the keynote. I wasn't super keen to go to the keynote, and apparently Greg and Alex weren't either. But yeah, we did not see the keynotes. It was mentioned, and other sessions certainly talked back to it. So I feel like I kind of understood what it was. I'm trying to remember who. Trillium. JC and Esther Tetro, founders of Trillium, led the keynote. So I have regrets because I would like to have seen them, but I have an idea of what they talked about. And they talked about their growth and just how that all worked. Instead, I went to, not really instead, but the next session. So it's a normal conference. They have time slots with sessions, competing sessions, depending on which track you're interested in. All. The next session that I went to, pull up my notes, but it was more about, I would say, marketing yourself as a brewery.
Okay.
So that stuff, you could probably guess why I'm interested in that. I feel like that is our main job, is to help breweries to market themselves and to, get people excited and interested.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was very interested in that and what kind of advice they were giving breweries. This one was it was several marketing firms. I think 3 marketing firms that do different segmentation analysis and just focus on different areas of brand growth. Boy, I feel so dirty just talking about things like brand growth. But they were just talking about all the different segmentations, what's growing, what's not, what they're seeing going forward. It was a very interesting session for me. It was, I don't want to say it was mainly aimed at the larger breweries, but I think that smaller breweries and tap rooms who don't have a shelf presence probably couldn't get as much out of it. Not directly anyway, but it felt like some of the things they were talking about were important. So this one was led by someone from Total Wine. She leads up the craft beer and other segments of Total Wine acquisition, like nationwide. And so these are tips that she's seen sellers, providers, distributors who distribute to her stores that do well. These are the sorts of things that she was seeing. So it feels like that's mid-level. Like I just bought some Odd Side at Total Wine, for example, here in Indianapolis. And so they would probably benefit from this sort of advice if they aren't already following it. But I did get some things out of it that I thought were interesting for even smaller breweries and things that they could do. So a couple of things that I want to call out, and any brewers who are listening who want to steal these ideas are welcome to them. But branding and brand differentiation was very important, and it makes sense on cans. You stick to themes. You pretty up your can. You do nice stuff with it. Maybe you put you glue a feather to the top of the bottle. That was, I think, against the grain. Who did that?
It was against the grain. I have a bottle in my basement.
Yeah,
that has feathers in the wax.
So you get yourself known for. They also have the brown note, so you get yourself known for being irreverent and silly. That's one way to brand differentiate. Another is just to stick to certain labels or label styles. Make sure your logo, and so Odd Side does this one. Make sure your logo is prominent, things like that. Stick to color palettes. So stuff that will make your cans recognizable on shelves. But I think a lot of this could be done with your glassware in your tap room as well. And I don't know that people want to float having that much bespoke glassware around in their tap room. But if you had a range of colors with your logo, those lend themselves to pictures, which will get posted on social media. And so that's one way to take advantage of the current generation and some of the olders who do actually post pictures of their beers on social media.
I do.
Yeah.
I do always make sure when I'm taking pictures that if I have a label on the glass that I have that logo showing, so you know what beer I'm drinking. I'm not the type though who is loyal to, if I'm drinking a batch beer, I have to drink it out of a batch glass.
Right.
And I'm using batch because that's what I'm drinking, but I'm drinking it out of a Listerman glass right now.
Right. And I'm drinking out of a Devil's Club from Juneau, Alaska glass.
But I do also pay attention to, that's a really awesome brewery, by the way. I do also try to pay attention when I'm taking a picture or even when I'm drinking on the show to make sure that that logo is showing, because people
Right.
pay a lot of money for these glasses and we want to give them the credit for doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And so if they can get, I kind of combine it with something I've seen on the Untapped Discord, where there's a group that has a regular bottle share that they do, and they just have a place set up with basically coaster like dots and nice lighting and a nice background, and that's where they take all their kill shots. So a brewery or tap room could have an area like that set up, and it would likely get used by people posting on Instagram and such with their picture, and they would want the logo to be prominent because this is where we are. You could even include stuff like that as your background, whatever branding, whatever message you want to get out there to get people to come in and check the place out could be part of that nicely lit Instagram worthy spot.
That would be a much better idea than me waiting for whoever is serving beer to leave the bar so that I don't have their chest in my picture.
Right. Yes, I think that they would appreciate that too.
Again, something else I do.
Yes. Yeah. So those were two things that I came away with from there. Even if you're not distributing and doing art regularly on your cans, you can have a few glasses or a few flavors of your glasses that kind of theme together, and people would want to take pictures of it and share them. They were talking about some of the other aspects, so the growth metrics or the growth areas of what do we call this? Beverage alcohol, I think is what they called the segment, something like that. It still feels so dirty. Marketing and sales is not my thing. But they were talking about functional beverages, which is a thing that I didn't know it had a name, but this is the Delta 9, the prebiotics, the stuff that does more than just deliver alcohol to your mouth. So it delivers something else with it. And that is growing a lot.
We don't know anything about that here in Michigan.
Right, sure. It's weird here. I'm pretty sure the Delta 9 is fine, but actual marijuana is not fine. Something along those lines. Yeah. Let's see. If you do distribute, it says, they said very strongly, make sure that your digital shelf looks good. So any thumbnails that might show up on a website like Total Wine, even in your online store, just make sure that your thumbnails look good. If you do distribute, or if even if you do growler fills or crowler fills that people can pick up from your website, or if you have a point of sale like that. They had some other suggestions, like making sure there's place in your tap room for retail. If you can partner with an online delivery service. And they were very, very adamant that you need to take credit for things that might feel uncomfortable, such as if you're woman-owned, take credit if you are a local tap room. So if you mostly serve the neighborhood and you do stuff with the neighborhood, take credit for those things that you do. Any charities you support, make sure to get that word out there, and any sustainability efforts that you've got going on, make sure to just let people know, toot your horn. It's going to interest more people than it disinterests, but they are not going to find it unless you put it out there.
100%.
Yeah. That was my session Monday. The rest of Tuesday. The rest of Tuesday I spent wandering the show floor. So Alex did not go to that session with me. She had a mission for her brewery, for Brewocracy. And so she was wandering the show floor on that mission, looking for, I don't know, bits and bobs that I didn't understand, but are important in the brewing process. It's more that they will make their lives a bit easier in the brewing process.
Okay.
So, for example, I think last time I mentioned that she hauls all the malt up to the mash tun to throw it all in. She now has an auger that does that, so she doesn't have to haul it all up there.
Nice.
Yeah, she just has to load the auger. So that's something. And I think that was an addition from the last time that they visited. So I can't remember what she was looking for, but she had scouted the show floor, and it was really nice of her to have done that, because she was our Sherpa, able to take us around. One of the things they were looking for was tap handles, which gets back to that branding thing again. A tap room tap handles can be interesting, but it's tricky if you are going through a lot of small batches. Like if you're brewing, small batches of beer, you're going to be changing kegs and flavors a lot. So they were looking for easily changeable, so that I guess their current system is that they have numbers and beers on their menu, and they have numbers on their taps, but the numbers don't necessarily line up to where the consumer ordering the beer sees the correct number on the tap. They see a different number that might be in front of the tap just by happenstance. I don't know. I didn't quite understand it. I need to see a picture, but
right.
but But if they can put beer names, even temporary beer names, on the tap handles, then that would help customers from arguing that the person pouring their beer is pouring the wrong beer, even though the right beer is being poured.
Right.
So that's one thing
I've seen a few that have like the logo, like it's the shape like the logo, or there's something else that says. I think Eastern Market Brewing Company is one of those that they have like a main one, and then there's either a chalkboard or a whiteboard that they can add what the name of the beer is to it.
Yeah.
On the tap.
I'm
pretty sure it was them.
I think some of that, I've seen the chalkboard ones and I like those. That makes a lot of sense. This one, one of the ones we looked at had a magnetic system and it looked pretty neat.
Oh, that's cool too.
Yeah, so you just snap it in place after you write on it on a more comfortable angle. But I think some of those depend on what the angle or where the taps are in relation to the customer. Like if the person pouring the beer has their back to you when they're pouring, then I don't think it's as important. But if they're looking you, well, they're not looking you in the eye. They're hopefully looking at your beer to make sure that, that they're pouring it right. But if they're looking towards you, then that's a situation where you see which tap handle they're pulling from. If it's labeled differently on your side than what you ordered, that's a good chance to speak up.
Right.
So
I will say that I have noticed like Shorts Brewing, no matter where you go, you know if there's a Shorts beer on tap because their tap handles all look the same. The one thing that kind of always bothers me about that is that I have to say, which one is it? Bell's is the same way.
Yes.
Unless it's Two-Hearted or Oberon, you have to ask them which one it is because it's just the ball with the bells on it. So, I mean, I get it. I get having to have something like that, but it makes it a little more difficult for the consumer to have to ask.
Yep.
But at the same time, it also gets me asking what beers they have on tap. So
right, and talking to them, and you'll get an answer, and you'll know pretty quickly whether that's a beer of interest to you, and then you can ask about flavors or things in it too. So yeah, I can see both ways. I'm thinking back to Rheingeist, which has a very distinctive tap handle everywhere that their beers are on tap. But they usually they come in different colors, and I don't know what the colors mean. And I know Rheingeist fairly well, but apparently not well enough to associate a color. I think green would be truth, but other than that,
that's like no rules with the bowling ball on the bottle. Tells you what year it was. But I have to go look it up every time when I find them. I try to find them in my cellar now, but I think I've drank them all at this point.
Yeah. Beer Brewery did that with their sanitarium for a while. They were not putting years on it, and suddenly years showed up, and then they went away. But they had a system. There were a couple of years early on where it was the same label even, but it was different color wax. And then the labels started changing, and the wax colors started changing too. So I put a key out there on Untapped. If you look at the master entry for Sanitarium for the years that don't, or the labels that don't have years, in case you were cellaring those and want to know what year they were, there is a key out there on Untapped. So,
all right. So what was next?
The show floor.
The show floor. What did you do on the show floor?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to start by saying that the show floor had a bunch of samples available. All sorts of places. It was like being at a beer fest, but it was different from being at a beer fest. These weren't booths all lined up and you just get in line and get a sample. There were lines, and there were some booths had them, some booths didn't. But the lines weren't long. The taps, so they were, I would say they're far away if you're picturing a beer fest. But then there would be like 8 to 10 taps at a booth. And the taps would have just absolutely anything on them, or they're pouring from cans. It could be beers from local beers were well represented. A lot of Indiana beers were on tap. A lot of Ohio, Michigan. We had some Iowa beers. I'm just trying to think through what all I drank, but I drank a lot. There were beers from all over. And then there was one booth that we didn't find until Wednesday. Well, we saw it, but we didn't stop it until Wednesday. They were doing a tasting flight of 9 beers from 9 different breweries around the country, just all over the country. Like Walking Mountain was in there, and I'm trying to think of I can't
Is it a
think
hop
of.
vendor?
It was. They are a hop vendor. I think they sell other brewery supplies too, but they were a hop vendor. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense then.
And that was the deal. Everybody brewed with the same hops and hop extracts, or a hop extracts, and there were 9 different styles of beer. They were all yellow. I've got pictures of we were just going to split a flight, but they gave us each a flight. So we have 3 flights of 9 beers that they had already poured. The unfortunate part with that one is that they poured them into these plastic glasses that were really fresh and still outgassing pretty strongly. So there was a lot of plastic smell in the beers. Some of them were worse than others. The other part of it that wasn't great for me is that I like dank beers a little. I don't like dank beers a lot, and these were all dank. So the goal of the thing was to drink the 9, and then you vote for your favorite. And I wish I could remember what my favorite was. It was good, and I would probably drink a pint of it. There were some that were just way too dank, way too much like pot for me. Like beyond that, what is the 450 North one that does the strain that they have? But that stuff is just, I mean, it's like liquid pot, and it's just not a flavor I appreciate. But some of them were, yeah, exactly. This is me talking about beers I don't like, but and I'm not saying they're badly crafted or anything like that. It's just, yeah, that's just the way it is. I can't remember which one I voted for, but I did quite like it, and I would drink a pint of it. So it was interesting that with the same hops, same hop extracts, they had quite a range of how strong the things were. So that was fun. I think it would be more fun, but probably not aimed at a consumer like me. The brewers who know their craft would probably say, okay, yeah, well, this one was added early in the boil. This one was added into the whirlpool. This one was added throughout, type of they could get those flavors out of it. I'm not there. But I would have been interested in knowing that, but I might not be their target audience either. So the other thing that they had at that booth, though, where they have gummies, and Albanese is a candy company in northern Indiana. They distribute everywhere. I've seen them in Thailand, of all places. I almost brought some Albanese back from Thailand to Indiana.
They're better than Haribo.
They are better than Haribo, 100%.
Because they're soft.
And you could go to their factory and get the not quite bears. It was like, I want to say £5 for $10 or something ridiculously cheap. Because the bears don't look right.
They're so juicy. I love
them. So they had a bunch of Albanese gummy bears, and then they had unbranded, unlabeled gummy bears, not for individual resale, that I brought back that were just done with the hop extract. So that really dank hop, I brought it back for my wife because she likes that stuff. So I brought it back for her, and
that's awesome.
She's appreciative of it. Yeah. That was a good takeaway from the beer conference, I thought.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to teach people what the hops should taste like.
And I've had hop candy before as a hard candy. That used to be sold pretty regularly at my local homebrew store. I don't know. I haven't been in there for a little bit. So maybe it still is. But that was also fun. Like citric candy makes a lot of sense. So that was the beer part of the show floor. There were taps, all sorts of different places. Different places were pouring. It wasn't necessarily their stuff. It would be their customers' stuff. So I'm thinking now of one of the malt places I went to, Prairie Malt, and they're part of a family of malters. they had several of their customers had beers on tap just from the area, from farther afield. We sat there for quite a while and chatted with some people that Greg got introduced to someone, and so he's a brewer out of Iowa. Turns out he is out of the Quad Cities. I spent a lot of time in my childhood in the Quad Cities visiting cousins there, so we just chatted for a while about that sort of thing, and beer, of course. But that was it. It was a fun place because there was beer. There were tables for sitting and talking with people that are coming from other places that might have different experiences on beer and brewing. And I will say, I wish I had his card out. I got it, and I want to talk to him again. But he and Greg chatted for quite a while about actually brewing beer and the industry stuff that I understand, but of course not at that speed. It's like if they're speaking a foreign language too quickly. I just could not catch it. So, but he was fun to talk to. He had great stories. He was interesting to talk to. And Bettendorf, Iowa is not necessarily a place that you think to go to for beer, but it sounds like they've got quite a craft beer scene going on along the river there.
That's good to know. I have done a trip to Iowa for beer.
Yeah.
So it would not surprise me because there is some really good beer in Iowa. The
other big thing in Bettendorf, I don't know if it's in Bettendorf or just right near there, is the world's largest truck stop. So if the beer didn't pull you in, then you can go to the world's largest truck stop, and it's right there too. The other stuff on the show floor, and there is, they call it B-roll. They give access to B-roll. Actually, anyone can get access to it just by clicking a few links on the Craft Brewers website. There is a lot of stainless steel, just a ton of large stainless steel apparatuses, exactly what you would expect to see if you went to a brewery and did the tour, or just looked outside. If they've got the big green silo outside holding their stuff, then those things are all on display. They had all sorts of gadgets and gizmos hooked up to them. There were canning lines running demonstration canning, obviously not canning, but moving cans around, flipping them over, all of that stuff. They had a pasteurization line, I noticed. So that was pretty cool. I don't think it was pasteurizing the beer over and over and over, but they were running in circles. It was fun to watch little cans move around. It's always fun to watch, the assembly line stuff. And then there were just little gadgets that were everywhere. Refractometers, hydrometers, I don't know any other equipment that you might need as a home brewer and then definitely need as a brewer. They had equipment there for all sorts of scales, all sorts of sizes. And usually there were show discounts and stuff. So it's exactly like a trade show, but there's beer. So it was fun. I do need to show off a couple of acquisitions. Ball was demonstrating their aluminum cans, their aluminum canning stuff. So Ball is their Ball State University is here in Muncie. I talked to a brewer in Muncie too while I was out during that week too. But they are famous for ball jars. We know ball jars for canning, but they also do aluminum now. And they were giving away, or they were pouring samples of beer. Their samples were kind of funny. I tried something, I don't know if you've heard of this one. It's a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
No, I've never heard of that one. I heard it did really well, though, at the World Beer Cup.
So I got a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale poured into one of those aluminum cups that I got to take home. Greg and Alex helped me out. So now I have 3 of each size. I have a pint size. It's probably about a half pint size. And these are going to be my new patio cups. I have some of those silly pints, which I like a lot, but they have a weird mouthfeel and sometimes they smell.
I agree with that.
Yeah, these aluminum ones don't smell. They don't have a weird mouthfeel. They feel kind of thin, but it's a bit like a solo cup, but it's not going to crack right away.
Bonus.
Yeah. So that's my new. I was excited to get that acquisition. They also had some aluminum coasters, which I haven't tried putting a sweaty beer on yet. It's not sweaty beer season here yet. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Right?
Wouldn't the water just pool on the aluminum?
Or flow off the side of the aluminum. Yeah, I'm not
Right.
sure. But it does look nice, and it says ball on it, and I have 2 of them. So, yes, it has been amusing.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I carry my balls with me wherever I go. But that was, the show floor was huge. The other time I've been down there for any length of time is for Gen Con, which is a board gaming convention. It is also kind of a trade show, but more consumer focused of a trade show. And they used pretty much the same space, but where Gen Con is packed full, this one was more spread out. So it was interesting, just that vibe. There was a lot more room to roam, and it felt so much better. It wasn't wall-to-wall people. It was nice. And there were just so many people saying hi to each other. I hadn't seen each other for a while. Not that I knew any of them. It was really cool.
It's always fun to watch that, though.
Yeah, exactly. It just, it was great. I want to say White Labs. I really should get the name right, but one of the Yeast Labs, they're on the East Coast and the West Coast. They have tasting rooms. They had a setup in there too, and I tried the Hefeweizen. They made it with 2 strains of yeast, so you try both, and both were delicious. But you can, obviously taste the difference between the 2 strains they went with.
You had me
2
at half.
very different. Yeah, exactly, right.
I'm like, what? I want to try both.
Yeah, they had. I can't remember which hop grower it was. It's one it might have been Yakima. No, I can't remember who it was. It was some hop grower. They had basically. I don't want to say it was the same beer with different hops, but they were showcasing some of their new experimental hops. And I had one that it tasted like strawberries. I think it's just called Pink. It was really quite good. I really liked that one. I didn't try the other ones there. Kind of wish I had, but I was pretty happy with the strawberry one. It was subtle and interesting and a little different from the other hops out there.
Nice.
But then, so they pour you the beer, you try the beer, you enjoy the beer, and then they take you back behind the counter, and that's where they have samples of all the hops, and they say, this is what you just drank, this hop here, and they've got the hop pellets there, and so you can do the brewer thing, which is to rub your hands together on the hop pellets so you can get the smells out and you get a good whiff. And I said, I don't know what I'm smelling here, so I'm just going to sniff out of the jar. And they said, yeah, that's fine. But it was neat. Anyway, that part was pretty cool. I really liked the show floor. I would say you have to be interested in the stuff that goes on the other side of the bar to get much joy out of the show floor, except for the beer. The beer obviously will tide anyone over, and there was a lot of it, a lot of different places. And they scanned my badge at so many places. My badge, so I was media. I should make that abundantly clear. I was there on a media badge. So I was not a normal attendee. There were a couple sessions I couldn't go to, like I couldn't go to guild meetings and things like that. But otherwise, I was quite welcome everywhere. But on the show floor, it was funny because when they're scanning badges, I'm there with 2 brewers, and then there's me with my media badge, and they're always not sure if they want to scan me or not. So that was they're not sure if they want to reach out and sell me a canning line. I do not need a canning line.
No.
So that part was interesting. I remembered now one of the things we did Monday, and it was before the welcome session. We went to a Three Floyds tap takeover at a place called the District Tap, which is about a block east of the convention center. Easy walk. So we walked there. And there were probably 8 taps of Three Floyds beer. They were, I'm going to say, normal Three Floyds beer, which has become more abundant in recent years than it used to be. But I was with people from New Zealand, so how often are they going to find it on tap, really?
Right.
So they were pretty happy to try a bunch of different things. So we tried a bunch of different things there. So, and then Tuesday after the show, we did a nice dinner with my wife and daughter up in up in Whitestown. We went to Moontown Brewing after the show. They've got good food. They've got just great beer. I cannot recommend them highly enough. Their only downside is that they're like a 40-minute drive out of downtown. Might be only 30 minutes out of downtown because of the interstates. But Indianapolis is not large, so that's far. Like you tell that to someone in Chicago, and they're like, "Oh, so across the street." 30 minutes is nothing.
You can get anywhere in Detroit in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I can get, I would say anywhere in Indianapolis from where I live in 45 minutes. So that was the default. If I'm going anywhere when I lived in Chicago, it's 45 minutes to get there. That was just the default.
That's not always true. I need to put a caveat in there. That's not always true, but everybody I know is always like, oh, it's like 30 minutes away. No matter where you're going in Detroit, it's 30 minutes.
That's the Chicago. It's 45 minutes. Well, this was early 2000s, so it might have gone up by now, but yeah. So Moontown, I do not remember what beers we had. I know I had a Cecil. That is their house hazy. It is a house hazy from back when hazies were a new thing, and it is still a really, really good beer. They did not have their grisette on. They often do, and I love their grisette. So that was unfortunate, but they had other good beers. Their porter, Into the Void, is just delicious. I cannot recommend them strongly enough. So they're a great visit if you want to get out of downtown and go see something else. And that ended Tuesday. So Wednesday, let's see. Wednesday, we were a little slow moving.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. But Wednesday, we got there in time for the State of the Industry address from Bart. I'm sorry, Watson? I don't remember.
Bart Watson.
Yes.
You were just on that page.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. From Bart Watson then. Excellent.
Bart Watson.
There we go.
President and CEO of the Brewers Association. I am the former guest on our show.
Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry, Bart. And I really liked his presentation. I thought it was really good. Like, he was pretty forthright. He was pretty matter of fact. He was saying the things that we all know. Like, we're currently in a decline of the craft beer era. Beverage alcohol is actually doing kind of okay. He was giving some ideas on what breweries can do. One of the interesting stats he had was that breweries making under 500 barrels are the one that are hurting the most right now, which is all of our small breweries, all of our tap rooms. Only all of those are hurting the most. But he gave some suggestions on what things can do, what things breweries can do. And this one was interesting. I talked to Greg afterwards, and he heard something different than I heard. I think he heard something more intelligent than what I heard. But so in this article here, this is the Craft Brewers Conference, basically wrap-up article that they posted. But he pointed out that craft beer has the flavor edge, and he means a few things by that. What I took away from that was I make fun of putting weird stuff in stouts, putting all the things in stouts. What did my wife have today? A chocolate hazelnut, peanut butter, something stout. Right. So you just put everything in there and it's going to taste good because it's a nice meaty beer. But my friend Greg took away from it that he wants to, either in addition or instead of saying, oh, it's made with these hops at these times, like we added this to the whirlpool, he wants to point out that the hops are adding the citrus flavors of oranges and lemons and grapefruit or whichever citrus it's adding. This is the one that adds cat pee. Some people get cat pee, some people get pine trees. What is that, Simcoe?
Yeah.
or something like that.
Simcoe makes me want to rub my tongue off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, like I've been doing this before.
Oh no.
After I had a sample with Simcoe in it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even paying attention. My friend was like, did you drink the Simcoe one?
Right.
It
Yes.
makes my tongue feel fuzzy. I don't know if it's an allergy, if it's an actual allergy, or if it's just that I don't like the way it tastes. But
Right.
I tend to tell people I'm allergic to it because it does make my tongue feel so fuzzy.
That's a reaction of some sort.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends who they get the cat pee flavor out of it, and so they avoid that one. It's a thing that. But as you can tell by me not remembering the name of the hop right away, I don't have that problem. um, so Greg is thinking, oh, I need to play up the pine tree aspect of it, probably not the cat pee aspect of it.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, and so I think that is a pretty good advice to some of the smaller breweries as well. Just rewrite some of your beer descriptions, and include, if they don't already, the flavors that you're getting out of it, because and to be brutally honest, whether they're the right flavors or not, people are going to pull the flavors out. People are going to say it tastes like this or that.
Right.
There was a brewery here. They did a beer called Wabash Brewing. I don't think they exist now, but they did a beer called Bacon Face Brown, which I think I've talked about before. And it was named after their dog, whose name was Bacon Face. And it was a brown beer, and it has no bacon in it. But if you check it on Untappd and you look at the comments, so many people say, "Oh, I get so much bacon. There's so much bacon in this beer." I get so much bacon. There's nothing about the bacon flavor in the description, but people definitely pull it out. So you could say it tastes like grapefruit, oranges, whatever you want to say it tastes like, and people will confirm it for you. It doesn't mean it's right.
I
But
totally just went through that with I got a beer thinking it was going to be a stout based on the name.
Uh-huh.
And it was not. It was an IPA, and it did not go over well with me.
Oh,
I don't know that it would have gone over well with me if I had thought it was an IPA before I poured it.
right.
Honestly, because just the flavors were not my cup of tea.
Right.
Somebody out there loves it, I'm sure, but they
Yeah,
were not
right.
my cup of tea. And I was so disappointed because I thought it was going to be a stout.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. So yeah, don't be too dishonest. Don't say it has a bacon flavor if it doesn't. But if your beer is named Bacon Face, people are going to pull out a bacon flavor, whether it's in there or not.
It's probably true.
Yeah. So Wednesday I went to the State of the Industry. Bart did a good job. I was very impressed. Also in this article, and I want to pull it up because
he was on Better on Draft episode 261. If anybody's interested in going back to look about it, he just talked about the state of the industry at the time, and this was back in 2021. So it was very, very interesting to have him on our show.
He seems like he is a data-driven person and is good at interpreting the data.
Yep. Well, this was back when he was the chief economist for the Brewers Association.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was a very numbers-oriented show. But he had a lot of very useful information, especially even for people like us who aren't actually in the industry. We're industry adjacent, is what I call it.
Yes. We just promote the industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love to drink the beer that you guys are making.
Yes. I love to hear the weird and random stuff that happens in breweries while they're making those beers.
Yes.
Like, we had a hose break, and so we had to hold it together for, while the rest of it was pouring from this tank to that tank. All that weird stuff that happens.
Absolutely.
So, I did want to point out the State of the Industry started with several awards, and the first, well, it wasn't the first award given, but it's the first award listed here, was the Russell Scherer Award for Innovation in Craft Brewing. Went to Ron Jeffries, founder Jolly Pumpkin, recently deceased. Yeah. and his wife accepted it, and it was the most touching thing, and I was just about in tears. It was such a nice video, such a nice presentation, and
Great
she
man.
was so grateful, and it was beautiful. It really, really was. There were other videos for the other awards. I have them up right now, and I'll read through them quickly because I don't know the people, not because I don't think they don't deserve them or more time, but the Brewers Association Mentor of the Year Award went to Sean Mullen of Stone Brewing Company.
Nice.
And there was a nice video of that and talking just about people he mentored. The FX Matt Defense of the Industry Award was for Ted Zeller of Norris McLaughlin and the Brewers of Pennsylvania. And that video was a lot of, so he's a lawyer, but he's a lawyer who helps do, well, he helps expand legislation or make it so that we can enjoy our beers in a more convenient way. And I don't know if you've ever tried to buy beer in Pennsylvania. I don't know what the state is like now, but the last time I did, if you wanted to go beer, you had to go to a bar and you had to buy the beer there. So that was weird. Like there weren't liquor stores, if I remember right. It was, yeah, it was a weird setup. And then the Brewers
Like you couldn't
Association.
buy beer at a brewery, or is it like you have a tap room?
You could at a brewery and a tap room, as long as they have a bar license, you could buy it there. But I don't think you could go to a liquor store and buy beer. I don't think you could go to a liquor store. I don't think they existed. Philadelphia, I was working in Philadelphia, and it was a weird one because of just where I was staying, where I was working, and that there wasn't much opportunity between the two. Just normally I go out and explore, and I didn't have as much time to explore in that one. So, but that was my experience. If I wanted to take beer back to the hotel, was I would just buy it wherever I was drinking. The Brewers Association Recognition Award, which is it went to the North Carolina beer community, and that one was a very touching video of all of the hurricane damage and all.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty touching. Just all the damage was shown to breweries and things, and then all the way that the breweries allied together. There was a beer, of course, to raise funds. They had a great distribution network to get water and things out to people who didn't have the water and the things that they needed. So it was just, again, touching, well-deserved. It was such a sad start, and then we had the state of the industry, and basically the industry is on fire. Everything. It wasn't quite that, but it's just
right.
The reality of the industry is just not so. Well, there were a couple of things that he said that I actually took notes on and thought were worth bringing up. So one big thing is that there are more craft drinkers now than there were. So the volume is down overall, but there are more craft drinkers. Or I'm sorry, the volume of consumption has been constant. So the volume per drinker is down. There are fewer craft occasions, and I'm noticing this too. There's just fewer get-togethers and parties. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, and old people don't do that.
It's COVID.
Or people
it's
just
still,
not,
It's still that people aren't doing the things that they used to do. We're not having the bottle shares. We're not having the big events at breweries like we used to.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see it a little bit with some of the bigger breweries around here. But people just aren't going out as much as they used to. I
used to go to more. I haven't been to one for a while. Of the parties where there is a a kiddie pool full of ice in the backyard, and you just drop out your beers in there.
Yep, bottle shares.
Yeah, well, yeah, these were less craft beer. So I would bring stuff I want to drink, and then I would end up drinking Michelob Ultra because people drank some of my stuff. But
no, we don't do that here.
I'm in Indiana. This is
you bring a beer you want to share.
Oh,
And
well,
everybody brings beers they want to share.
that's a different party than the one I'm talking about. Yes, those
Okay.
bottle shares those definitely happen. We tend to do those at people's houses, and it is like-minded
So
craft brewers. These are just backyard parties.
so that's like the Indiana version of a jungle juice party?
We don't pour it all together. It's just you bring beers, you put them in the kiddie pool full of ice.
Okay.
Or the cooler or whatever. It depends on how fancy the party is, I guess. But
Yeah, my friends would not be okay with that.
and usually, so this is Indiana. Sometimes there's race themed stuff. But this is May. I should have started honestly by
Okay, that
saying
makes
this
more
is
sense.
May.
Yeah.
But it's just those kind of occasions. Or maybe for a football game. It could be anything like that. I'm trying to remember the last time I did one of them, and I think it was just my friend's like birthday. It's just his birthday. He is a craft beer drinker, but most of his friends are not. So
I might try that.
Yeah.
See what
He
happens. What
he
kind of stuff shows up in the pool?
that's kind of how it worked. Like moose drool showed up in the pool, and that's
Oh, that's a pretty
rare
decent
for this
beer.
area. Yeah. No, that was what he wanted. He had it before. He knew a guy who could get some, and so that was what he wanted in his pool. So there was like a case of it in there. I think I put some New Glarus in there too. Even like I had just been up there, so
Oh,
right.
now I'm thirsty.
It can be fun. Those pool parties. It can be fun.
I have cheap friends though. We'd have a lot of PBR and Coors.
There's plenty of that, and that tends to be the stuff that lingers. But, yeah. I will get crowlers of stuff from nearby and open those up and share them around, but not quite the jungle juice style. But there is an open crowler in
Of
the
our
pool.
college youth.
Potentially. Yes. Yeah.
I thought about doing that just once as an adult to see how does that really go, because as a college kid it tasted fine, but as an adult I'm like, I don't think that could be very good at all.
Yeah. Yeah, we were pretty dumb back then.
I'm like, and we were just dipping our solo cups in there.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully it was a clean garbage can.
Well, yeah, that's right. It probably just had jungle juice in it.
Yeah. That's all it was used for at that house.
There's plenty of antiseptic alcohol in there.
You know, I used to believe that until I got the plague one year.
It's not strong enough.
My friend literally said to me, he's like, I'm really sick. You can try my beer, but I've been really sick. And he's like, you really don't want this. And I tried the beer, and not even 48 hours later, I was sick. Yeah. And I was sick for like a month.
Yeah.
It was the worst cold I had ever had. It was ridiculous.
And the alcohol in beer is just not strong enough.
The alcohol does not actually kill the germs when you are sharing with other people. Please remember that.
Right. Okay, so Wednesday, that was the state of the state of the industry. Yep, it was. I quite enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of stuff to take away from it. The slide deck is out there on the website if people are interested. I don't know if there's a recording. I think there's a recording, but you might have to be an actual attendee to get access to it. But I thought it was a very interesting thing. There were some suggestions if you're able to branch out into other flavors, to branch out into other beverage alcohol brands or endeavors. So if you wanted to make canned cocktails, for example, or hemp.
I mean, it just makes sense.
It does. So if that's a thing you can do, distilling is another option. So if these are things that you can do, have the capability to do, it was recommended that you look into doing that to kind of weather through this. He likened this current downswing to the one that happened in the 80s, and then there was another one that happened in the 90s. So he likened it to those. Basically, it's something to weather, but do something while you're weathering it. Don't just hunker down. The rest of Wednesday we spent on the show floor wandering around. There was another session I went to. It was aimed at the media and how a brewery should interact with the media. So I thought I'd go and see what they were suggesting. It was interesting to me. I did not have any good suggestion note things for breweries out of it, but I have some ideas for things next time we have a guest, and we have a guest lined up for 2 weeks from now. So it's just some things to kind of prompt conversations with some of our guests coming up.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was Wednesday. Wednesday night. Oh, I know what I skipped. Tuesday, we went to Sun King after the show, and before we went up to Whitestown. Sun King had, I can't remember which podcast network was doing it, but there was a live podcast going on. M. Souter, who writes Pints and Panels and has a podcast, I believe. She was there signing stuff. I was going to go there and get something, but I didn't see her set up, and I didn't invest as much time into it as I should have. So I'm kind of regretting that one. Hopefully
she did the drawings in her opening sequence.
Did she? Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Good. So but the Sun King part was fun because they have great beer there. It's a wonderful place. Yeah.
It's a nice location too.
It is. We ended up Ubering there. I usually walk. It's the other side of downtown, which is about a 20-minute walk, I think. So it's not bad, but we were on a schedule too. We had to get out to Moontown. But Wednesday night, I enjoyed that one a lot. We went to Kismetic when we were done with the conference. And Kismetic is one, we talked about them briefly when we were talking to Googman House. They put a lot of tea in their beers, and I had it was a wheat ale with Earl Grey tea. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I can't remember what Greg and Alex had, but they enjoyed their beers as well. They were doing a Pride night, which was cool, and that was just filtering in as we were filtering out, not because we didn't want to participate, but because we had other places to be and other beers to drink. We went to another brewery that was about a 10-minute Uber ride away. I'm not going to name because their beers were not as good as they normally are, and we did not have such a good experience. And then we walked to the Garage, which is a food hall in that area, and had some beers there. And then to cap it off, we went up to Deviate Brewing.
My favorite.
Right?
I love Deviate.
I thought you would enjoy that one. So we went up to Deviate. I warned them.
Did you pet the dog?
The dog was not there. It was too late.
That's disappointing.
I think the dog's owner had already left. I've got a couple friends who live right down the road from there. They are in Deviate all the time. So I messaged them saying, hey, we're going there. They met us there. So
I would be in big trouble if I lived near that close to Deviate.
Right.
If I could walk there, oh my God.
So Joe and Amy, thank you for meeting us there. We had a great time. And I had been warning them about the ABV of those beers because they are usually really high. And most of the beers, I think, were under 6% this time. It was unusual. Yeah. Then we Ubered home.
The first IPA I had that I really, truly enjoyed was at Deviate.
Excellent.
It was a triple IPA, and I got it on the Wheel of Shame or the Wheel of Indecision.
The Wheel of Indecision?
Which they don't have anymore, but it was amazing to me. But I was too slow at deciding what beer I wanted to drink.
And so they
spun the wheel, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best beers I've ever had.
So you were there before they expanded. They now have the space north of them as well. So the tap room is maybe twice as big as it was back then.
Yeah. I've actually been back since then.
Okay.
That was the first time I visited there.
Gotcha.
It is not the last time I visited there.
They are a good visit. That is one. It's an hour bike ride for me, but it's an awful bike ride because there's no sidewalks and there's interstates and highways.
It's it's not easy to drive there either, really.
No, they're on a weird corner that's tough to get in and out of. Yep.
But it's totally worth it.
It absolutely is.
Every second I've spent there has been totally worth it.
They make some amazing beers. Just have an exit strategy.
Yes.
So that was Wednesday. Thursday, Greg and Alex went home. I did not do anywhere near as much beer, and it was weird. my liver started recovering. But Thursday at the Craft Brewers Conference and Brew Expo America was the day of announcing the World Beer Cup Awards. And I had a wristband. I could have gone to that. I chose to instead sit at home on my butt and not go to that. I don't really regret that choice so much, but I did not go.
So we do need to talk about who the winners were, though.
Okay.
Because we had 3 from Michigan. I muted myself so that I could type.
Okay, gotcha.
We had 3 from Michigan. I know for sure. How many from Indiana?
I think it was 5, but that was not the number. I haven't looked it up yet. All right, so from Michigan. Wow. I cannot type. And
right. I do know from Michigan we had Archival beer.
There we go.
I can't find the.
All right, so Lunar Fallout from Tilted Access in Lapeer, Michigan, got silver for American wheat beer.
That makes sense.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I have been to Tilted Access, and they had some pretty good beers. I was very impressed with them.
Okay, I have not been there, but I trust you. Ager's Wreath from Archival got a silver for historical beer. They're in Belmont, Michigan. And then Baltic Porter from Haymarket Beer Company got a silver for Strong Porter. They're in Bridgman, Michigan.
Yes.
That's what came up for Michigan, just those 3. But I searched for MI. Okay. Indiana had a few.
Not from California.
Yeah, it's hard to search for Indiana.
Can we talk about that Sierra Nevada? Because it came up in my news feed. One of the angry old brewers were like, "What? Why are they winning stuff?"
That's
I'm
right.
like, because they make a really good beer.
So I did not have any of these at the festival. Oh no, I did. Okay, Sierra Nevada Brewing Company out of Chico, California, won for pale ale in the category of extra special bitter.
Yes. And so it has to do with all the subcategories within there. And
sure.
I actually like doing the whole Cicerone studies. I'm like learning about subcategories and all this stuff. So I completely understand when you drink a Sierra Nevada pale ale now.
Yeah.
It is not what you thought it was 10 years ago.
Yes, especially our palates.
Categories have shifted.
Yeah.
As to what a pale ale actually is anymore.
I could see that, and it gets to that when people ask about or on Untapped as moderators, we get a lot of, "No, this should not be this style. It's obviously one of these things." Like, and beers don't quite work like that. It's whatever the brewery says it is.
Right.
It could be the shittiest extra special bitter because it's a double IPA. Like, but if they say it's an extra special bitter, that's what it is.
And the judges obviously thought it fit the category.
Right. So they evaluate it to the flavors of extra special bitter, all the requirements there, and I guess it gave pale ale a gold.
It was actually a subcategory that it was submitted in.
Okay.
But it won overall for the extra special bitter.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is how that happened.
I could see that. It really did something to my mind, but I can understand how it got there. Yes.
So the way that I looked at it, I remember after we had, so the first time I tried Heady Topper, I was like, I didn't even know what to think. Like it totally like smacked me in the face. Like I'm not even sure about this. The hazy IPAs are not the thing for me, or the New England IPAs are not the thing for me. And then over the years, the category kind of changed. Right. And then we had them on the show. And I tried the Heady Topper again. And I was like, this, if you like smack you in the face hops, this is not for you.
Right. Right.
it was still the same beer, but the category has changed since, and it's really funny because they actually created that category. Like they were the forerunners in that category, which I think is the same thing with Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. They were the forerunners in that Pale Ale category, but it's changed over the years so much that people are like, it's not really that anymore.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. To round out Sierra Nevada, they also got Trail Pass Hazy, 1 gold for the hoppy non-alcohol beer. And
sense.
Their Weizenbach, this one was out of Mills River, North Carolina, got the South German style Weizenbach. All right, so I will try searching for Indiana and scroll way down to where we are. So quite a few medals in Indiana is what is showing up here. I do not want to go through all of them, although they all earned it. So Primeval, I want to call out. They got silver for French Kiss in the Belgian style or French style ale. Primeval is by far, it's one of my favorite breweries. It's one of those 45-minute cities for me. So it's, but if you're ever in the northeast of Indianapolis, then I do strongly recommend visiting Primeval. They do great beer. They won a silver here. I want to call out that Gugman House, who we had on about a month ago, 2 months ago maybe. They got a bronze for their Riverside NEIPA in the juicy or hazy.
I cannot wait to try their beer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll help you out sometime. I will definitely bring some up sometime. I wanted to call out who was the other one? Oh, Beer Brewery. Their pumpkin ale always wins pumpkin beer. This one got a bronze, which is still good. Their pumpkin ale is one that people just go nuts for and line up for, and it's kind of ridiculous when it comes out. Sun King got 3 medals, a bronze, and a gold. And then Moontown. So we talked. No, we didn't talk about the German style Marzen or Franconian style Rotbier. But Moontown got Follow the Lederhosen. They got a gold for that. So that was the place I went on Tuesday. Anyway, Indiana did quite well. And as we talked to Gugman, she said that they had to ship to Colorado in order to have it judged here in Indianapolis. And I guess it's so most places have to ship.
Which is really funny. Hey,
Yeah.
Rob, I have to step out real quick. I'll be right back.
Yes. Okay. Fine. I will start talking about Thursday.
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to start talking about Thursday and just mention, or Friday, and just mention that this beer is from Friday. I have a finest barley wine, because barley wine is life, from Zorn Brewing. They are in Michigan City, Indiana. And there is a bit of a story about how I came to have this can and 3 others just like it. But Thursday or Friday was an interesting day for me because the conference was over. There were still people around, but I didn't do anything downtown. I mostly did chores and stuff around the house. But Friday night, I was pouring beer up in Lebanon, Indiana, which is more than 45 minutes away. It's actually only 30 minutes away, I think, but maybe 45 minutes away. So that place that I was pouring beer at is called the Sugar Creek Malt Company. And they are someone I have been remotely stalking for a long time. I got asked through a friend who is a friend of one of the owners of the place to pour beer there for a basically a customer appreciation party that they were holding. So this was out on their land. They have a farm. They have a couple farms out there, and then they've got this area around their farmhouse. And it's also a business because it's where they do their malting. And they had it set up. You could bring a camper or an RV. You could set up tents. They had an area for tents to be set up just off of their main land, main grassy land. And then they had their maltery was open, and they obviously do tours. They have signs up and things to do like a self-guided tour. And so I did eventually, the way it worked, I was there to pour beer, and that's fine. That's all I had in my head. I'm here to pour beer and nothing else. But it was kind of slow at some of the times, and one of my friends would say, "Hey, I know you're into this, so you want to come see the maltery?" Yeah, and so he took me on the tour for the maltery because he's done it a few times, and it was really cool. You go in, and there are these bins of the barley that they are sprouting, and they're in different degrees of sproutiness. One of them, there was a guy in there who I don't think had much English, and he was saying that this one has sprouted too much. It's gone too far. They need to. They can't use this batch anymore. I don't know if that's true. I did not follow up, but the
Yes,
next,
usually. Sometimes there's herbs out there that if they sprout, if they
yeah,
get to a certain point, you can't use them anymore. You got to cut them back and wait till they
yeah,
regrow.
yeah. So and then the next bin, it was partially sprouted, and so it was, but all of it just smelled so good. It just smelled like growing things, and um, there was the grist mill. There was all this equipment in there, but they had a roaster out front and going, and it's just a tiny little torpedo roaster thing. I don't know if it's called a torpedo roaster, but it's a rotating drum. It's really hot, and yeah, they were demonstrating that they could roast malt. It was also right near the food. I was more interested in the food at the time because the other thing that they do is they raise pigs. Um, they called them, I want to say, forest raised hogs, something like that. And there's some woods off in the middle of a field that they've got their hogs running around in, and they there's a barbecue joint near me called Rusted Silo. It's in Pittsburgh, Indiana. I can strongly recommend it if you're ever in the area and want barbecue. They do a fantastic job. But the guy who owns that place, he came out like it was several hours before this thing was starting, and he started roasting that hog, like a whole hog, and then we had pulled pork sandwiches, and oh, it was spectacular. Um, so that all was like it was overwhelming. There was just so much going on. Um, I was there to pour beer. They put me in the liquor tent first. so there were like 5 tents there. There was they had them broken up. Ales and stouts were in one tent. That's where I eventually ended up. There was the liquor tent, and that had well, it had obviously liquor, but there was one tequila. There were several bourbons, some other whiskeys. I'm trying to remember what else. There was a wine, um, and all of it had been made with their malt, with Sugar Creek malt. So all of the bottles that were there were brought by customers who were at the party or who couldn't come to the party but wanted to support the party. So there was just, and then there were some bottles that didn't even have labels. They just had like painter's tape with some words written on them that may or may not describe what was in the bottle. That was a lot of fun. So I didn't try much of that. I tried a couple of the things. There was a purple corn whiskey that was in there. So that was interesting, but I didn't get much out of it. They had another, it wasn't a tent. They call it the corn crib because that's what it is. Or it used to be, but they've turned it into a bar. So if you've ever seen a corn crib, which just holds corn, they have turned it into a bar. It had beer engines in there. They had a barley wine on a beer engine in there. And so I had a pour of that, and it was spectacular because barley wine is life.
True.
And it's just, they had other pours in there that I didn't get to try just because I was there to pour beer, not to drink beer so much. They had they had 2 other beer tents, and I can't remember how they were distinguished because I didn't spend much time there. And then there was the ales and stouts one that I was at. And I just had a blast pouring at first the liquor place. I just had so much fun talking to everybody who was coming by. Gas City Brewing came by. That's a city in Indiana, west of Fort Wayne. And we chatted for forever and ever. Just, they were so much fun. And then when I moved to the other tent, I was joking because the liquor tent was suddenly empty and our tent was full. And I said, it's
Must have
because
been you.
it's obviously me. I keep talking to the people. They keep hanging out with me. But I ended up talking to one of the guys from Zorn Brewing up in Michigan City, Indiana. And he said, "Oh yeah, I brought some barley wine. It should be at this tent, but it's over there. I brought a case of it. You need to make sure to take a 4-pack home with you." And I went over to the tent and I said, "Hey, I hear there's a barley wine up here." And they looked through their coolers, they looked through the list, they could not find it. And so they sent me to the barley wine that was on the beer engine. So I had one of those, which was great. I reported this back to the Zorn guy because I saw him again later, and he said, "No, that's not it. That's a different one. It's really good though." And he said, "No, it's over there at the tent. I'll make sure you get a 4-pack. I'll go get you a 4-pack." I went back to the tent and I talked to the guy again, and he said, "Oh, we have all this beer over here that we didn't put in the cooler, and it never made it up on the list." So they had dropped off this case of barley wine, and no one had any because they didn't know it was there.
Oh no!
Yeah, which is awful
So
for
did you
them,
get
but
some to take home with you?
great for me. Well,
Nice.
funny you should say that because here's a can of it right here in my hand. That's where it came from.
That's funny.
So that was my payment for pouring beer. But I talked to so many people. People were just so happy to be there. They love this malt company. They love working with the people there. They were fun to talk to. Like the people that work there, that live there, they were fun to talk to. The people who are customers of theirs, they were fun to talk to. I had just had the best time. We were pouring out of cans out of a cooler. Well, 2 coolers. I had the stout cooler. My buddy had the IPA cooler. He hates IPAs. So we were pouring out of our coolers.
They do that for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why they put me in the liquor tent to start with. But that was great. It was just so much fun. But that was my beer week.
Well, it sounds like a blast.
It was a good week. That particular event was semi-related to the Craft Brewers Conference. They were a sponsor of the conference, I believe, and then a lot of the people who went to the conference also went to this thing, for obvious reasons. So, but it was fun. I had a great time.
I will say one of the sessions that you missed out on, probably
yes,
because you're not a brewer or a home brewer. My friend and mentor Annette May, who was last year's Mentor of the Year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
She actually did a presentation on beer line cleaning. So
I saw that on the list. That one was actually competing with one of the other ones I went to or was going to, but I think I missed because.
Which, if you don't have to clean the beer lines, you really don't need to do that. But she's very adamant about it. She was a teacher at the Schoolcraft College brewing department or the brewing program, and she actually has had me sit in with her so that I could learn how to clean the beer lines for the Cicerone program. So she's very thorough.
Yeah, I would imagine if she's going to teach about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. That was something that we didn't talk about, but we should because she's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's important. That is how the beer becomes better on draft.
Absolutely. Cleanliness is the most important thing in brewing.
Yep. So I think that, we are reaching the almost hour and a half mark. So it's probably time to wrap it up. I guess I can talk for a long time.
You can. I do have a couple of rapid fire questions that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Just as a person who wasn't there, do you remember what the favorite beer you tried was?
I do not. I had a lot of really good beer. I do not remember my favorite beer that I had there.
Okay. That's why I asked if you remember it.
Yeah.
Is there somebody that you met that stands out in your mind that you would like to talk to again?
There were a few people. I don't have their names handy, unfortunately, but I have their business cards. So there was the guy from Twin Bridge Brewing in Bettendorf, Iowa. I would love to talk to him again. And then I talked to a malter. That was where actually it was the same booth. that I talked to the guy from Bettendorf, and he and I already started talking for about 15 minutes, and that was when I knew I wanted to talk to him again. Yes. So I have both their names. I have reached out. I would love to get them on the show.
Okay, and last question. What is the most interesting thing you learned during Craft Beer Week, or Craft Beer Conference Week?
The market segmentation, the beverage alcohol part of it, that part was interesting to me. But just the market segmentation and the way they're saying push flavor. I guess the most interesting part to me is just how supportive the craft brewer guild is, or that association is, of the industry, and how much they want their people to succeed. So that part was interesting to me.
That's amazing. That's what makes me want to support this industry. And I love, even though we're only adjacent, I love being
Right.
a slight part of it.
It's nice to get this view inside. Yes.
It's a camaraderie that I don't think a lot of other places have.
Right. So.
And with that.
Okay. Yep.
So,
whatever you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft.
Cheers.